Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Garage Talk Sports. I'm Mills.
I'm Bobby.
And I'm Nick.
And we are back again in the garage, guys. Always love bringing you guys another episode. We got a fun one coming at you. As always, we lead with our hot spots. Then we'll cover some college football talk. A couple teams lost some big games that really hurts their chances at postseason or in like the postseason picture and everything. Then we'll talk NFL, some Bears talk to wrap it up, and then Nick's question of the week. As always, though, we start with our hot spots. So I'm going to kind of call on someone. Nick, I know you've been itching to give us this hot spot ever since, about 2.5 hours ago when the news broke. So go ahead, rub it in.
The Mariners are just getting better, and it's good having a baseball franchise that actually tries to win games. They went out and got Teoscar Hernandez from the Blue Jays, and they give up Eric Swanson and some other pitcher who I think maybe pitched 1 or 2 games in the majors, but mostly was minor league all year. Swanson had a good year, but again, it was one good year. He was mediocre for the past 3 years, just kind of average. But when you're going for a World Series push, which I'm assuming that this trade, that's kind of what they're selling for.
It's got to be what it is.
He's not a guy where I'm like, okay, 9th inning, we've already used our closer to get to the 9th inning, or I'm going to put him in. So I'm like, all right, I'm fine.
He's bullpen depth,
yeah,
not an essential piece. It's I really like the move. I when I saw it come across my phone, I was just like, damn, Mariners, keep doing it.
Yeah.
When I saw it at first, I thought it was the Marlins. Like, I just looked at it real quick, and I assumed it was the Marlins, and I was like, I'm surprised they would do that.
Marlins.
They're making moves.
But then I
Marlins
reread it, and I was like, the Mariners. I was like, that makes more sense now.
Just randomly making moves. The thing is, though, with that move is the Mariners are they're just hoarding outfielders.
Yeah.
So
especially if Jared Kelenic kind of turns it around, which
I forgot all about him.
I think this move puts him for sure probably in AAA to start the season.
Yeah,
but he's going to be the guy itching to get up, and he's 23 years old. But you have 21-year-old Julio Rodriguez who just signed a big contract
and rookie of the year.
So he's not going.
He's not going anywhere.
Rookie of the year sold. Kyle Lewis, rookie of the year in 2020. He's 23 years old now. So I don't really see him going anywhere, but also he could be. Then you have Jared Kelenic, who is 23 years old and probably doesn't have a lot of trade capital. I don't think anyone really wants him because he's been really good and really bad.
I feel like the
really,
Mariners kind of botched the whole Jared Kelenic thing with the call up originally.
Yeah,
and they just he kind of got screwed by how he was handled, I think.
And he wasn't. I think he was hyped up as being better than Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah, they definitely hyped him as
and then Julio Rodriguez came up and they're like, holy shit. And everyone's like, oh, they're going to ruin this just like they ruined Kelenic. And then he was a stud after 2 weeks in the season.
Yeah, they hyped up Kelenic and I guess maybe he was their number one prospect at the time.
He was.
Okay, but they hyped him up like he was going to be Mike Trout.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
He was mic'd up in
pretty
spring
brutal.
Training when he first got signed, and he was mic'd up in single A games when no one they weren't even on TV. I'm like, you're putting a lot of stock.
A lot of celebrity
it was
status.
the Billy Bean treatment. It was like, oh my God, you're going to be amazing, and it was just like, well, he's like, well, if I'm not amazing, I'm not going to be good. And Julio Rodriguez came up and was like, I'm just going to play my game. And yeah, first 3 weeks, he did not swing. He struck out a lot on looking at third strikes because he knew the strike zone very well.
Yeah, and that happens with a lot of young guys.
Flipped over. But yeah, going back to the outfielders, they also got Jesse Winker, who they got last year. I don't really see them making. I'm not seeing they're not going to move him, but I don't see them really moving him now. So that brings my boy Mitch Haniger, who is the veteran presence, even though he's been there. He's like 29, 30. So I can see him possibly moving, so I'm going to wear this jersey as many times as I can.
Until you got to retire it?
Yeah, until I get my Julio Rodriguez jersey.
Couple things. First,
I knew that too.
I appreciate the Billy Bean reference. Once again, another episode with a Moneyball reference. Gotta respect it. I feel like we just find a way to sneak that in there.
It's a good movie.
It's a great movie, guys. One of the best sports movies of all time. Go watch it. Brad Pitt, brilliant. Anyways, second thing, yeah, you're looking at it. Probably Mitch Haniger's probably your guy that you're looking to move. He's your most expendable at this point. The way I look at it is it's either him, Winker, or Kyle Lewis. Now, if I were a GM, the way I would approach it is who could I get the most value for, and I imagine Kyle Lewis is who you would, because 2020 Rookie of the Year, very young still, tons of talent and upside. Not going to be a free agent anytime soon. You still got 4 years until he can test free agency.
Yeah, 4 or 5. I don't even know if this year counts.
Yeah, that's the thing. His injuries. I don't know if that. I don't know how injuries affect service time, to be honest.
Last year he gets no year for service time.
Okay, so then he still has
Oh, wow.
5-ish years. So that's huge. That adds trade value because you get talent that like can't leave right away.
That definitely needs to be changed.
Oh, I hate the service.
That is
The
terrible.
MLB service time is such crap.
So say you have 7 years, you get injured one of them. Now you got 8 years.
Yeah,
You're stuck.
the MLB
That
service
wastes
time has
your
been
prime.
it's been crap. Like I've been very open and outward about how much I don't agree with it. But either way, back to my point. If I were the GM, who I don't know the name of the GM for the Mariners,
Jerry Dipoto.
if I were him, I would be looking straight up to see what I can get for Kyle Lewis because he's not taking Julio's spot in center.
No.
Teoscar, I imagine, is going to become a full-time corner outfielder in left or right field.
Yeah, he'll be left. If they keep Mitch will be right fielder
Yes,
because he's
and then-
one of the best
Yeah,
defensive right fielders.
He's a good right fielder. And then Mitch Haniger, I'm one of those guys who likes to try, like when you had a guy who was consistently good for your team through bad years, and then like now you're getting good. I'm a guy who likes to find a way to keep him around. And Mitch Haniger's not even old by any means.
No.
I'm gonna say
he's
at his
29.
oldest he's 31. I'm gonna say that's the oldest
Yeah.
I think he is. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's younger than that. But so it's like you want to do right by him and keep him around. Plus, he's at that point now where he can hit free agency unless he signed a massive extension at some point, which Nick would be the guy to have to fill us
He's
in on.
31.
Oh, look at that. I was right.
Yeah, right on.
So-
the money.
When does he become a free agent? Do you know? Do you have it on there?
I can pull up this.
Yeah, if you want to
Whatever.
pull that up real quick.
But yeah,
But my point is just the guy who gets you the most value and is most expendable is Kyle Lewis.
yeah,
you know-
I think that's who you gotta go with. You get who's gonna give you the most bang for your buck. You
Yeah,
gotta go.
They're in need of second base because Frazier is going to hit free agency. He's probably not going to re-sign with the Mariners, but he could. Like I said, there's so much we don't know. The offseason's so young; it's still early. But
Mitch Haniger is a free agent this year.
okay, so he has virtually no trade. Wait, so he has
he's
to
gone.
re-sign?
He's gone.
So he has to resign.
He's not under contract going into next season.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, so
I
Mitch
mean,
Haniger's not coming
yeah,
He's
back.
currently a free agent. He is rumored that the Twins have
So
already reached out.
he's not okay. So Mitch Haniger's not coming back then.
Get,
Oh, man.
get to wearing
So
that
there-
jersey out, man.
that disregard most of what I was saying then. Well, no, it still stands that Kyle Lewis is the guy who's most expendable
But you can still
in terms
rock
of value. But Mitch Haniger most likely not coming back just takes away that whole issue entirely.
Yeah, and I think you could still like have Kyle Lewis and then
Oh yeah, he'll play
Jesse
play right
Winker.
field. Kyle
Yeah.
Lewis is going to play he's going to play right field.
Yeah.
Winker's going to fill in for him or Hernandez against righties.
Yep.
One of those two is going to come out. Whoever's not having as good a year at the plate or is
Yeah.
having or not as good defensively will probably come out when they're facing a righty and Winker will go in. So that whole conversation ends there.
And I will say you might be in play to re-sign Adam Frazier then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're saying arbitration it would cost the Mariners $19 million to get Haniger unless they ink a long-term deal. So I think it all depends too on how much to what happens.
Yeah, it's still
Mitch
early.
Haniger is a guy
But
who
this-
I can
I'll tell you
see
what.
taking a hometown discount,
I don't think so.
but because he's been injured, so I don't know if a team's going to just shell out money for him. But
Maybe not. But
So Twins might.
it's
The-
got
I
to be
think-
it's got to be close to the 10 to 12 million for the Mariners to try to match it to get him back.
yeah,
And if it's anything more than that, they're not going to sign him.
Yeah.
this Teoscar Hernandez trade changes the perspective of that entirely.
Oh, yeah.
That's a move to replace Haniger. So that's most likely what's going on there. Bobby, I'll hand it off to you. You got another baseball thing that you
so
wanted to mention for your
it
hot
is-
spot.
It was alluded to at the end of last season, but it is finally official. The Cubs cut Hayward. I don't want to do the man dirty. You know, he was on the World Series team, and you know he did pay his dues to Chicago, and I respect him for it. But yeah, it was time.
Yeah, it was time to go.
Man's not what he was.
The issue with Hayward was he signs a massive contract and then never lived up to the value of the contract,
Yeah,
which it sucks. Hayward's most notable moment, honestly, in Chicago is his rain delay speech he gave to the Cubs in the World Series.
Yep.
That turned everything around. They end up winning it all. Like, that's the claim to fame for Hayward's time in
Yeah.
Chicago, which, you know what? You got a World Series out of it, so you got what you wanted
yeah. Like,
to an extent. You just would the Cubs have liked to, I guess contend or win multiple World Series with throughout the length of that contract. Absolutely,
They should have.
the absolute implosion that happened of that roster and just that
It's
team.
almost like Joe Maddon wasn't a good coach.
It
When
just
Jason Hayward had to save your team to win the World
it
Series.
was brutal.
Probably should
Like,
have got rid of him then.
it's really a shame that the Cubs, what could have been a dynasty, really, when you look at it on paper,
Well, now
just collapsed so hard and so fast.
because now officially with Hayward gone, Wilson Contreras rejected the
Qualifying
offer. So now it is Kyle Hendricks is the last one from the 2016 World Series left on the team.
That's tough.
That is real tough.
That's sad.
Yeah.
It's tough because the Cubs were at like the top of the baseball world. They were right up there with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And then in 2 years, after the World Series, 2018 was their last like good year, really.
Yeah. And well,
It is-
We'll see how it goes.
it is what it
see how
is. We'll
this
see what
offseason
happens.
goes.
They got money. They got
2027, Bob.
Yeah.
2027.
Yeah, true. But
They got money.
I
They
gotta
might
say-
sign up Abreu. You got
I mean,
options.
I mean, Obrio's okay.
He's old.
Yeah, he's old. But hey, you know what?
He's more than okay. All right. He would be an
Hey, they
upgrade
got-
for your first pick.
They got.
I'm sorry. Is he not better than Frank Schwindel, who was cut by the team?
I was about to say that. Yeah, he's good.
Schwindel, however you say it.
My heart was set on Anthony Rizzo when he opted out of that. I thought he was going to come back to Chicago.
No, he opted out because he was going to get paid more.
He
Yeah,
had done, he had
40
done
grand.
dirty by Chicago. He's
guaranteed.
never come back.
Yeah, he's on the Yankees. The Yankees will pay anyone anything they want. That's
Especially
why
when they're a stud.
yeah.
Except
That's
for
why
Aaron
they're
Judge because the fans don't respect him. All right, and
That's
he's
not a
coming
Yankees
back.
thing. I think he just straight up like, I'm not coming back to you guys.
Yeah.
Which is good because Yankees fans are scumbags. So they're just scumbags. Honestly, all of them hate them all. Even except for John Boy Media, I'll give him a pass.
Yeah,
He's the only Yankees fan I have any respect for, and even then, when I see him in his Yankees hats, I'm like,
But it's the hat that drives the hatred.
it's the hat. It's not the
man.
person. At that point, it's the hat, not the character. But Yankees fans piss me off. Aaron Judge is going to be gone. You guys are going to be scrambling for a right fielder
what would
/
you
center
do
fielder.
to get
For a
Aaron Judge on the
Klondike
White
bar.
Sox?
What do you mean? Like what would I personally do?
Yeah, what would you do?
I have no control over that. What are you trying to
what would
bait
you-
me into saying something stupid, Bobby? What does that mean? What would you do for him on the Cubs?
I'd go buy his jersey.
You're stupid. All right, so I'm gonna go to my. Thanks, Bobby.
Well, moving on.
Thanks for that
Yeah.
wonderful content right there that
You're
we just gave our listeners.
Moving on.
If I were a GM, I'd offer him a blank contract. Say, you tell me what your number is for how many years, and I'll give it to you. That's what I would do.
You'd give him the
Carte blanche.
Sean Watson treatment.
I'd give him I'd give him as.
That's what they said
We're
was
not
the
doing.
rumor.
We're not letting the Predators come.
Yeah.
No,
come
that's
on,
what was
dude.
rumored. Cleveland
The
was
contract, only the contract.
yeah, only the contract because Cleveland. It was rumored that Cleveland was not in on him. So Cleveland told his agent what would it take, and they he literally had the agent write up the contract, and that's why they got him in Cleveland.
Stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
I would straight up be like, here, just tell us your terms and I'll give them to you. Whatever you want for however many years, done deal. I will pay the luxury tax every year if I have to. But I'm not a GM, and Rick Hahn's not going to listen to me. But whatever. I have no expectations for the White Sox going forward. I'll just go into my hotspot because I don't want to get pissed off talking about the White Sox, right? So, for those who are unaware, the XFL, it's weird, when you look up XFL draft, it says that it's not until February, but there was draft activity today. So maybe that's like when they draft college players into the XFL.
Yeah, maybe.
But AJ McCarron and Martavis Bryant were the two most notable names. Not much to talk about in terms of their football careers. The thing is, the XFL, so they can't sign any players that are in the USFL because they're under contract with them. So the XFL has no talent to pull from because they're the third division now of professional football.
But I feel like they will soon.
They will take over they're going to be bigger than the USFL.
I think so.
Just because everything associated with the XFL is, first off, you got The Rock. What else? He's one of the most influential celebrities in the world.
and ballers.
Ball, yeah,
Such a
yeah.
great show.
I put you
did
on.
put me on, man.
It's a good show. It's really good. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of. I'm interested for the XFL more so. I'll watch it more than I will have watched any USFL activity because I watched
Yeah.
maybe a
Well,
quarter of that.
I will say, AJ McCarron is probably way bigger of a name than
anyone in the USFL.
Yeah, who was
Shea Patterson.
Yeah, Shea Patterson. That was
AJ McCarron there's going to be talent in the XFL, whatever the degree of it is, I won't say. But I'm interested to watch it because I do think the road to success for the XFL is to serve almost as a minor league system for the NFL. Let the NFL try out new rule changes in the XFL. We've got all kinds of controversy with referees. We'll get into that later in the show, but there's countless controversy involving refs messing up calls. So explore some different solutions with the XFL. If it works, great, adopt it into the NFL. And then it's just good for players to have a higher profile chance at back into the NFL. Everyone goes to the Canadian Football League, but it's not the degree of talent. Obviously, it's the degree of talent no matter what is going to be a drop off for sure. But I'd like to think the XFL can learn from the mistakes of all these other past minor league football leagues that have tried and failed and, be something that's consistently successful, help players get back into the NFL, because the XFL has to understand they're not there to compete with the NFL. They're there to supplement the NFL.
True.
And that's got to be the mission there, because you're not going to win if your goal is to come in and take over the football market from the NFL. It's not happening. That's never happened.
No, I agree with you. And
it needs to be more like the G League.
Exactly. Minor league. Yeah. Exactly.
It
Developmental.
It needs to be so when the Broncos don't have a quarterback, they can be like, hey, you play in the XFL, which is the one level below, so we know you can compete at least at some level.
I agree with that 100%. Because that's got to be their avenue.
Because
that's their way in.
I mean, it kind of was like that because you see Taylor Heineke and PJ Walker.
Yeah, they came from the
original
XFL 2.0. I guess this is technically XFL 3.0.
Yeah.
COVID really, I thought the XFL before The Rock bought it out had a chance, and then COVID wiped it out.
Yeah, it really did.
That wiped out everything because it is what it is. I'm excited for the XFL though.
I do too. They better keep that you can't fair catch it. I hope they.
No, I don't care about that.
I want to see that. That's
No. They're moving away from the recklessness that's associated with the XFL.
I know, but it would.
But it should be supplemental to the NFL. Try some rule changes there. Let players play in the XFL while being under contract with another team, like Nick hinted at. We took so-and-so, a quarterback in the 5th round who we would like to see more of. Boom. He's going to play in the XFL. He's going to be an XFL player, but we're going to be able to bring it because the seasons don't overlap. Yeah. So that could be your thing. Okay, you're on our team. We want you to get reps in the XFL. That's something to explore. I don't know the logistics of it though.
Yeah, it's a little different with football because you really wouldn't want there has to be some kind of rule where Taylor Heineke can't play in the XFL, and then as soon as that season's over, play for the Commanders because I feel like that's too much. With how they're trying to get rid of
safety wise, that's
not
health risk.
Basketball is the same, but you have to play how you're it's really hard to train.
It's the impact that comes with the NFL that makes that sketchy.
So you have to be if we're pulling up Taylor Heineke, I'm not saying it would be him because he's probably going to be in the NFL for the rest of his career. He's never go back down. But it'd be if we're pulling up Kellen Mond, we'll say we'll send him to the XFL. That's a good name. You can play him for 8 weeks in the XFL and then pull him up right away and play a full season. There'd have to be some kind of limitations.
Yeah, I think it's you send them to XFL and then that's just their development. And then when they're ready,
they can't play the whole season.
Yeah.
The logistics of it, that's probably not how it's going to be used, but it's something that I think is worth exploring. Plus that way you'll actually get more fans to go because they're going to be watching guys. It'll be like every other minor league sport, where you're going to see guys who will eventually become stars, hopefully. That's the hope, right?
Yeah.
That's why you go to AAA baseball games when, Julio Rodriguez was playing in them before his call-up, because I want to watch Julio before he's in the Mariners, stuff like that.
Yeah, or you see Jacob deGrom play.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff.
You pay $10 and you can watch him play.
Exactly.
I'm never going to be able to see him play in New York because...
Right.
The Mets is cheap.
Yeah. Well, maybe not anymore, but it's worth exploring. We'll see how it goes. I am excited for it, but we'll move right into some college football talk now. The big thing, College Football Committee dropped their new rankings. This is the third college football rankings of or college football playoff rankings of the season. But the big thing that I wanted to point out is Oregon. We talked about them last week as possibly the next team in outside of those top 4. lost a tough game to Washington, effectively eliminating them from the playoff conversation.
Bobby, Washington's mascot.
Huskies.
Oh, nice.
Attaboy.
Learning.
There we go.
I
Good
guess.
job, Bob. But so that effectively pretty much eliminates them from the playoff. There's no chance they're getting in as a 2-loss Oregon team, especially over some other better 2-loss teams.
So I think the odds.
And Ole Miss also is out for sure now. Too,
Oh, yeah.
because they lost to Alabama.
They lost to Alabama, but they held up decently. I will
They held
say.
up well, but with having 2 losses, they're not a good enough program.
Yeah, they're a 2-loss Ole Miss with one of them being to Alabama. No chance. First off, if any 2-loss team were to get in, it would be Alabama. But I don't think.
It'd be LSU.
Well, yeah, actually, yes, LSU. You're
Unless Bama wins the conference championship.
we gotta stop exploring this. Basically,
honestly,
2-loss teams are not going in unless something crazy happens.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Tennessee's in for sure at this point. Like, I think that pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, this works very well for
Yeah.
Tennessee
Oh,
because, like I mentioned last week, Nick and I were talking about do you put them or Oregon in because Oregon has the one bad loss. They both had their one bad loss to Georgia. So,
But
now
Tennessee plays tougher teams.
Yeah.
So it's like
So
a toss-up.
this works out very well.
Yeah.
for
For
Tennessee.
Ole Miss losing works really well for Tennessee. Oregon losing works very well for them too. So now things are a lot more optimistic for Tennessee.
Yeah.
So rounding out your top 10 in this order, you've got Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, which one of those two teams will have at least one loss on the year by the season's end. TCU at 4, Tennessee at 5, LSU all the way up to 6. Good for them. Brian Kelly, they said it wasn't going to work. USC at 7. For those of you, Bobby's flexing his hoodie.
Yep.
You barely even opened your
I know this man.
by the way.
He was like,
Look at my trench coat.
Alabama at 8, Clemson 9,
short
and
coat.
Utah at 10. So, yeah, those are your top 10 for the college football playoff committee.
I have one complaint.
Yes,
I think Michigan should be ahead of Ohio State.
I can agree with that. I
Ohio
can.
State has had multiple games against very poor Big Ten opponents where
Northwestern.
they have looked bad.
Well, the weather was terrible there. I was there. I mean,
understand.
that was awful. Like, the wind was terrible. The rain, it was wet. It was.
I get
But
it.
the problem is, Ohio. Same thing with Michigan. Michigan has not really had a bad half or bad quarter. Their team is not nearly as much star power as Ohio State, and is not fast, like as quick of an offense to score a lot of points. But if Ohio State has a bad half or quarter against Tennessee, TCU, Georgia, or Michigan, they're losing that game. Michigan
I
hasn't
don't
really
think
had a
Ohio
bad
State
half.
or Michigan's going past the first round of the
I don't
playoffs.
think so.
Yeah,
either.
honestly, like, I'm not being like, I would rather see like LSU or USC because I feel like their offenses are like so high powered and they have all these weapons. I feel like they would put up more like
The
of a
Big
fight
Big
back.
Ten's a solid football conference until it has to face the SEC.
Yeah.
And that's that's most football that's most
that
other
is. But I'm just saying, I
conferences.
feel like LSU or USC would be better suited to. It would be a better game. At least they
Yeah.
would still score. Like,
I hear you, but so here's support of Nick's statement here. We all remember Georgia struggled against Missouri, and then the rankings, the college football committee took that into account and moved them from 1 to 3, put Tennessee at the number 1 spot. And we could argue with it, but at the end of the day, they struggled against a weaker team.
Yeah.
They had a couple bad showings, still wins, but still struggled against teams they shouldn't have. And the committee and the AP polls actually held them accountable for that. So it's like, if you're going to do it for Georgia, which I still think is the best team in the country,
Yeah.
Ohio State's kind of not getting the same treatment. On paper, Michigan's performance this year has been better than Ohio State's. They've been more consistently, I'm not a Michigan fan, but they have not looked bad
no, they
much
haven't.
at all. Like
They-
they've
they went-
maybe had a bad quarter here or there.
And again, Maryland was a close game. Michigan State was a close game for a while, but that's because Michigan doesn't have that just running gun offense like USC.
They don't have the firepower.
USC played a terrible first half against Colorado and then dropped 54
50
points
burger.
and they won by a ton.
50 burger.
Just a drop of 50.
That's fine. But again, USC has a bad half against Georgia in the first half. Game over. Done. Same thing with Tennessee. Tennessee had a bad first half against Georgia. Game was over. So it looks bad. Michigan is not going to have a bad. They're going to have a decent game. It's just if they can stop.
Yeah,
and
Michigan
play
has put
defense.
together more complete games.
Yeah, I will say
So
that.
like on paper, and listen, the Ohio State Northwestern game, the weather was terrible. I'm not taking anything away from that. But at the end of the day, I don't think 1-7 Northwestern held on until the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
Yes, they did.
CJ Stroud looked terrible. Like the offense for Ohio State. And
I will say,
Bobby, I'm conceding the weather thing and the win.
No, I'm not saying that. I don't think he was that bad. The receivers just sucked, kind of.
Fair.
He was putting the ball there. They just weren't catching
Fair
it.
enough.
To me, I go back to terrible weather situation, NFL game from last year. So not the same level, but they're both playing the same level. New England versus Buffalo.
I knew those.
They played in a terrible weather game, but one team
wins.
had threw 2 passes.
One team had a really good running game.
They won
and played through it and won. And Josh Allen was a stud quarterback and still had to put up a good game. Yeah, it was tough to throw a deep ball, so you're not really going to be able to catch up. So CJ Stroud probably could have had a better game if you're really being like he's a stud player. But again, Ryan Day and how Ohio State is, you're playing 1-7 Northwestern.
Yeah,
you should be able to have a running game against 1-7 Northwestern.
This comes back to, you can go back to last year's Michigan-Ohio State game where cold, snowy day, Michigan was able to, the weather negated the skill of Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's not, if you're a good team, you have to be able to overcome bad weather. And I'm not saying Ohio State's bad, but at some point, your talent compared to some of these teams you're facing, the weather shouldn't matter that much.
No, it really shouldn't.
You should be able to.
Michigan would probably won by 30 because they have a running game. So it's
you
have holes in your team.
But I honestly, literally, it's just the only reason why Ohio State didn't move is because their prestige.
Yes, it's their legacy ranking.
It's higher than
that's what it is.
I like it's Ohio State. They dropped Georgia to 3rd, where it's all right, every team's undefeated. Georgia's not going anywhere. They're one of the top 4 teams in the nation, regardless of what happens. So even if they lose to Tennessee, okay, they go back to 5th, probably 4th, really.
Yeah, I don't think they would have dropped.
It's the same thing with Alabama. When everyone's always mad, Alabama's one less team, but they're the benchmark of prestige. So Tennessee right now for this year is the benchmark. If you want to get into the college playoff, you have to either have a better record than Tennessee or prove that you've played better teams than Tennessee. The second option is impossible to do. Because they play Alabama, they play Georgia.
Tennessee has
played Kentucky.
Absolutely.
They played Florida, which isn't a great record, but they're a good team.
Yeah,
so it's all right, so you're not beating them.
Tennessee has definitely had the hardest schedule of any team in these
undefeated
rankings.
Ahead of Tennessee. Michigan undefeated ahead of Tennessee. Ohio State and Georgia. Well, and Georgia beat Tennessee, so that's a different thing.
Yeah, the Tennessee-Georgia matchup kind of washes that.
All those teams have surpassed that. Same USC will not beat them because they both have 1 loss, and USC's schedule nowhere near as tough as Tennessee's. But TCU loses, then they get in the benchmark of if TCU's the benchmark, I think USC is better than them, so they bump up to above TCU.
True. Well, they still have to play UCLA. So if USC pulls out a win, that could, if TCU floats down a loss, I think you could see USC.
Or if Michigan loses. If Michigan's a 1 loss, I can see it being Georgia, Ohio State, then TCU, Tennessee, and then 5th is USC. So
honestly, the way the top 4 rankings could go, realistically, you could see if TCU finishes undefeated, they're in no matter what. You can't put them in. But you could the committee could take it upon themselves if Michigan or Ohio State finishes with 1 loss, right? So let's say Ohio State beats Michigan, wins the Big Ten championship, and Michigan's a 1-loss team. The committee could still say Michigan's better than the number 5 and keep them in. Yeah. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think if you have 2 1-loss teams, or if you're going to put in a 1-loss team into your top 4, it's got to be Tennessee. Yeah, otherwise,
they have to.
Otherwise, it would be
Tennessee's going in if there's another one. If one of these top 4 loses a game, which we know at least one of them will, Tennessee has to go into the 4 spot in place. And that 1-loss team between Michigan and Ohio State has to come out to number 5.
Yeah.
Just because, like Nick said, the schedule for Tennessee has been. I don't believe there's been a team that's had a tougher schedule in football this year.
No, because then you're taking teams like USC will never have to play a tough schedule. Because if you're going to say, all you have to do is go undefeated, Oregon's not going to play Georgia next year because they're like, that screwed us over because now we have 2 losses. We could have got in with 1 loss. for that reason.
Yeah.
So it's like they're not going to play tough teams if they're not going to take that into factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tennessee's my first team in as like if there's one loss team going in, I'm picking Tennessee.
And I would give TCU the benefit if they go undefeated. So Ohio State goes undefeated, and that's the 4. I think you have to put Tennessee versus Georgia because I think TCU deserves to not have to play.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Yeah, no,
if it's Georgia, Ohio State, and TCU, all 3 of those teams undefeated, and Tennessee goes number 4, they're going to be at the 4 spot.
You have to put the one-loss team against Georgia.
They're going to put
It's
them
only
in
fair.
the 4 spot. You have to at that
And
point
then
on
Georgia's gonna
principle.
get mollywopped.
But there's a lot of wild cards at play. We'll continue to break it down as the matchups keep coming. The thing is, we have to wait until the end of the season for Ohio State and
Michigan.
Michigan.
Illinois plays.
Illinois plays Michigan this week.
Yeah, this week. So
And
that's gonna be a test.
Coming off a tough loss to Purdue.
and Michigan State.
Yeah, that's tough.
They lost week 2 to Indiana, then they went
The magic might
undefeated
be
for the
running
rest
out.
of it. Then they lost to Michigan State, Purdue, and now they got to play Michigan.
The gas might be running.
And
They might
Ohio
be out
State's
of that
only tough
gas
game
there.
for the rest of the year is
Michigan.
Michigan because they're playing Nebraska and then they play Maryland.
On any given Saturday.
Hey,
Right,
Maryland-
on any given Saturday.
Maryland
But
almost beat
something
Michigan.
else I wanted to talk about college football related is Alabama. Nick, you mentioned they are like the benchmark of prestige for college football, which is fair. They've been absolutely dominant since.
Yeah, I would have said a couple of years ago. Now with them having 2 losses, it
Yeah, so that was my question. I'm like, Alabama now has, for a few years, suffered a loss somewhere. You know, we have Texas A&M last year, I believe. I know they lost Georgia the year before. So Bama with a 2-loss team here, and then another ugly. I'm going to call it an ugly win against Ole Miss, just because the Alabama of the past would have just, even though Ole Miss was a 1-loss team and very good in their own mark, Alabama of the past just kind of still steamrolls them. So is this like a fluke? Is that like Alabama's clearly not the same as what they've been in the past years? This year, is this just a 1-year like off year kind of thing, or do we think that now we're seeing more football programs like build and compete to the same standard of Alabama?
I really feel like the SEC seen how good Alabama is, and they really stepped up their recruiting game and put in the work. And I just think the SEC is at such a high tier level that it's hard for Alabama to try and rise above what everyone else has become.
I think you're reaching those recruits now that want to be the guys who beat Alabama.
Yeah.
Like now Alabama, that's the thing. You've had the target on your back for so long. You finally reached that point where now the marketing plan is the recruiting plan is we're going to be the team that takes over Alabama's spot.
Yeah.
And you're probably getting a lot of recruits are like, hell yeah. Okay. Yes. That's what I want to do. I want to be on the team that takes over and knocks Alabama out and becomes the new dominant powerhouse in the SEC. I also think it's possible that NILs might starting to become a factor.
Yeah.
Because we've heard coaches, Lincoln Riley was one of them, who mentioned NIL deals was really shaking up recruitment. So that's something else. Texas A&M caught some flack for their alleged NIL deals and everything that they were doing. So that could be a factor as well. Further way to persuade guys to go to you.
Yeah. But you just have to look at Texas A&M. They've had very good recruiting classes. Texas has stepped up their recruiting classes. It's just everyone in the SEC is driving to become what Alabama.
Yeah, and that's why I said it. I think the message is we're going to be the team that takes over.
Yeah.
We're going to beat Alabama, and teams are going to they're going to be chasing us now. We're going to put the target on our backs. And I like to see it because, I like watching Georgia dominate and everything, but I also like to see different teams. I love the fact that TCU is the number 4 this year.
Yeah.
It's always good to see different teams get in.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching the same teams every single year in the postseason, it's just it gets boring. You want to see, obviously outside of the teams you root for, you want to see them dominate forever, right? I'd love to watch the Bears win the Super Bowl for 10 straight years. it's never going to happen. But like, I'm not in that instance. I'm not going, oh man, we need to see someone else beat the Bears. No, hell no. I'm a Bears fan. I want them to win them all.
Yeah.
But like, as just an outside fan watching objectively, you want to see different teams compete, and you want to see the talent kind of spread out more. It's still like in the SEC, but at least it's spread out throughout the SEC.
Yeah.
And
I like the spread, and I like that teams are getting less and less dependent on like an insane year like LSU's team, where it's like you got Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson,
the miracle
Jamar
year,
Chase, where it's like you have a stud team, and then boom, as soon as they won, out. Clemson had a good run with Trevor Lawrence, and then as soon as Trevor Lawrence went and some other guys went out, it was like, all right, now we're dropping again.
Yeah.
Where Georgia has found that sustained success. Ohio State gets lucky because they're in a weaker conference, but that's going to change when UCLA and USC join. Then it's going to get more and more competitive again, where you're going to start fighting for. You're really what's happening is the 4 and 3 star recruits out of high school are starting to get spread out more. Mm-hmm. Where before it was like, I'm going to Alabama because that's my best chance of being on a roster where it's like, I competed against these guys.
I can develop for 2 years and be a starter by my junior year, right?
Yeah.
But what happened with Clemson winning and then with LSU winning is you saw guys like Joe Burrow jump to the top just because they beat Alabama and they beat teams like Georgia. So now kids are like, well, I'd rather go to a school that's possibly coming up, maybe get more playing time. Like if I go to Alabama and I'm a 4-star corner, I'm probably not playing until I'm a junior. Whereas if I'm a 4-star corner and go to LSU, I'm probably playing, maybe not my freshman year, but at least my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So I'm getting more playing time early, getting my name out there earlier. And then when I do beat Alabama, everyone's like, oh, I would like him. He can win. He can beat tough teams.
Right. I think
that's what's going to happen for the next. I mean, you see it. And then also with COVID was a weird thing because now people got an extra year of eligibility.
Yeah, there's like 6 years.
Like,
it shook up everything.
The leading rusher from Illinois. I'm sorry, I don't think Illinois is getting a leading rusher unless they get a guy who's like 25, 24 right now and can just mow over some of these younger kids who are 18, 17 years old, just getting beat up by this guy. Which, I mean, it's always happened. Like, you look at the tournaments for NCAA for basketball, completely different sport, but the Kentuckys of the world lose because they have young guys.
Right.
You get guys that are there for 3, 4 years, 5 years from redshirt. They just have more experience. They have more credibility of knowing the system, learning everything. So when you can learn those, that's why I think there's some like, I think that's why LSU's good. Because I think after LSU won, a lot of those guys were like, well, we're not going to the NFL, so we're sticking around for longer.
Yeah, and I was going to credit that LSU team. They had a lot of seniors come back, and obviously the meteoric rise of Joe Burrow is a big deal. That changed the trajectory. The Joe Burrow development changed the trajectory of the LSU program astronomically.
It really did.
But they returned a lot of guys who were draft eligible, and that was a big plus. A lot of guys saw what they were on the brink of and were like, I'll come back for my last year. Paid off, obviously. And then so many of their guys finally left because they probably were also like, well, that was it. That was our like pinnacle moment. It's time to go get paid in the NFL. Yeah. But they're coming back up. Brian Kelly, I will admit, has been doing a very solid job. Surprisingly. I didn't expect it to work out, but you know what? Good for him. Good for LSU.
Good for college football in general.
Yeah, it's good for college. Everything right now going on in college football, I'm happy with.
Yeah.
It just seems like we've highlighted the talent is spreading out more.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see the Longhorns when they come to the SEC, what they are looking like.
Especially with Arch Manning.
Oh, I know.
You know what's weird? I didn't even think about this until right now. This year almost makes me not want to extend the college football playoff above 4 teams. Because I feel like this year, out of all the years in the past 5, 6, has been the most straightforward of these are the 4 teams that should be in.
I agree with you. I get your
Ohio
point.
State and TCU go undefeated. It's Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Tennessee.
There
should be no debate of.
There's very little controversy with with how it's shaping up this year. I've been wanting to see it expanded selfishly because I would like to see more football first off.
Yeah.
But also, you can't expect every year to go without controversy. 12 teams, I still think is a lot. I was all in on 8. 8 is thought was the perfect number to do. But whatever, that is what it is. But I agree with you, Nick. I feel like this is the least controversial season for the college football playoff rankings. And the only thing that I can see making it kind of a hiccup is the Ohio State-Michigan matchup, because then you have to pick between a 1-loss team to go in.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets theoretically messier, but I think we've detailed why it's pretty clear cut who the one loss team that goes in is. Cough, cough, Tennessee. It's pretty obvious in my opinion, but that'll kind of wrap up our college football talk because we can really start ourselves down a rabbit hole with that. And we got to kind of move into some NFL things here. So first things first, we'll start with it. Vikings Bills, absolutely play like game of the year so far.
Just one little note.
Yes.
If Josh Allen did not fumble that ball, I would have covered and I would have won that game. All right.
That's tough.
That was a tough loss to swallow. I was like,
see,
dude, I'm literally sitting there like, how? I had this in the bag. They stopped him. Like
we'll dive into that here quickly. But first things first, game of the year. Crazy back and forth in the last like minute. All right. Yeah. Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in football.
Dude,
at least in that conversation.
Should have won rookie of the year, but I digress.
Justin Herbert earned it that year.
Yeah, he earned it, man. Look
at him now.
There was no wrong. He's got nobody right now.
If he lost, if Justin Herbert would have lost, he would have a chip on his shoulder. They'd be in the Super Bowl this year. But no, he wins for rookie of the year. Now he coasts. He's
not coast.
He pulls the 2016 Cubs and he just coasts.
I honestly feel bad for Justin Herbert. Yeah. But I'll save my Justin Herbert stuff. I'll save that for Nick's picks.
Yeah.
But Justin Jefferson's he got
dude that one. He literally one-handed catches it, sticks his hand between Lewis's two hands, pulls it down, somewhat keeps it off of the ground.
He defied everything.
Impossible. I don't know how you do it.
I want to see, ESPN does their sports science or whatever. I want to see the analytics on that. I want to see the percentage of that being a catch.
It's got to
be less than 5. I bet it's less than 1%. Dude, I mean, he had full extension. He got every inch of his vertical to get that ball First off, he didn't even have a good grip on it in the air.
No.
He was able to finagle it on the way down, pull it out of the defender's two hands, land, keep it from the ground. Ball didn't even move at all. Didn't even hit the ground. It was incredible. It was an electric game. I couldn't believe it. What shocked me the most was the fumble.
Yeah.
I was 100% convinced that the Bills were going to get stuck with a safety because they had it at
I thought they were going to run the classic Ravens, Harbaugh play where Josh Allen just takes it and takes as much time as possible in the end zone and then just eventually kneels down because they still needed points to win.
The safety wasn't it. They needed
the fumble.
They were down. They were down, I think 5.
Yeah.
No. They were down 4 because then they went up 3 with the touchdown and the field goal. Or did they go for 2? I don't remember.
No, they were up 4.
Yeah, they were up 4. The Bills were up 4.
Bills were up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bills were up 4.
Yeah.
Yes. So the safety, I get the logic. You don't take the safety because then you're only up by 2 and a field goal can end the game. And I didn't think they were going to just concede a safety. I just figured they have the ball at the 2-inch line. There's you have to sneak it forward. I thought they were going to try and not be able to get the sneak off. I thought it was just going to be a safety because they couldn't get enough push at the line of scrimmage.
Well,
and that's exactly what I thought happened until I saw this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo.
I was like, no, it's this. What are you?
I was like, what?
No.
A touchdown? Yeah. It was unbelievable.
That you do the classic Joe Judge and you run a quarterback sneak. And then when that doesn't work, you run another one.
They tried the quarterback sneak.
I know.
And I don't, I'm watching it and I forgot who was calling the game. Was that the Tony Romo gang? I feel like it might.
I don't know, because I only got the end of it, because that was at the end of the Bears game.
We watched the end of the Bears game.
No, Tony Romo, I think, was the Cowboys-Packers game.
Yeah, good. I hate
Either way,
no offense.
The guys calling that game definitely tried to make it sound like the center messed up the snap, but I really think Josh Allen just botched it.
Yeah, he did.
Because you give it to your running back in that situation, but
the
Bills don't get a running back. What are they doing?
They can't run the ball, and that's a perfect instance of why they need to establish a run game. Because
outside of Josh Allen,
because if you can't trust your running game to get you those 2 yards you need so that you can safely take a knee to end the game, you're in trouble. And that was a perfect example of it right there. But then to give credit to the Bills, they went straight down the field and scored and tied it up.
Yeah, that's Josh Allen. Dude.
But something's going on with the Bills right now. Josh Allen, we talked about it last week. He's forcing a lot, and it's not working out.
Yeah, they're in a little bit of a funk. But honestly, if
Third place in their division.
Yeah, like
Guess who's in? You know who's leading the division? Nick
Dolphins.
Nick should know this one. Yeah, we got it. We got it right up there on the thing.
If you take the Tua concussion and all that problems out, they're running away.
Yeah, they're
I know.
easily.
Which
Nick-
everyone thought it was crazy.
Nick Big.
Dolphins are gonna
I didn't
win.
say it was crazy.
Yes, you did.
Bobby said it was crazy.
No, you
I remember thinking I had them pegged at second in the division. I just
You
didn't.
thought I was crazy, but I almost swung you in the Dolphins beating the Bills that week.
I thought it was a bold prediction, but I'll give you credit for how it's looking right now. But the
Yeah,
Bills,
Tyreek
the
Hill,
Bills
yeah,
are just
good.
in a weird funk, and they really got to snap out of it, or else they're gonna. Because
Yeah.
they need to win their division. Quite honestly,
They do.
They're like they have to win their division. They have no more margin for error.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen's got to figure it out. I don't know what's gotten into him, but he's playing like his first 2 years right now. He's
Yeah.
turning the ball over. He's just not looking like himself.
I will tell you my 3 favorite things to happen from this. 1, I was glad that it went to overtime, and I was kind of rooting for Josh Allen to not get to touch the ball because that would have been funny. 2, I'm glad he did get to touch the ball, and I hope all Bills fans can stop crying about, oh my God, if we would have got the ball,
Yeah,
we
that
would've won."
interception was
No,
terrible,
he
too.
threw
Yeah,
an
it was a
interception.
bad- it was
That could
a
have
bad
happened in the
interception,
Chiefs
man.
game on the first play of the drive. So I don't.
Yeah,
give
you
this
kind of
crap
you
about-
got your hypothetical played out for you, and
I don't give that.
it
Anything
botched.
could happen in football. So it's like, okay, your defense stopped them from scoring. Your defense could have stopped the Chiefs from scoring, but they didn't. So stop crying and making a rule change that didn't need to happen. Because guess
It is
what?
poetic
If
justice.
If your defense plays good, Josh Allen gets a chance to throw a pick. And guess what? He threw a pick.
He threw a pick.
And then
And-
part 3, Perk Thuggins wins. So
Perk
like,
Thuggins.
That's always a win.
The noon game nightmare is once again a thing. He's just unbeatable.
I heard they're going to play the Super Bowl at noon if the Vikings make it.
They should. If the Vikings are serious about winning, they need to really petition for that.
They really should.
No, I was rooting for a couple things. One, I picked the Vikings and Nick's picks to cover. Nick money lined them. So I was really hoping that they just covered. I was like, just cover the spread so that I get the points and Nick doesn't get his money line. But Nick, credit to you for the money line pick.
Yeah, I was pissed when they were losing by 4 because I'm like, you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna kick a goddamn field goal and they're gonna lose by 1. And
I was whatever. I'm glad they won. For those who do not know, arguably the Viking. Well, actually, no, it's very obvious. I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan. So in turn, I'm now partially a Vikings fan. I've always sort of liked the Vikings. It just sucks that they're in the same division as the Bears, so it's harder to like want to see them do well because when they do well, it's not good for the Bears.
I feel the same way about the A's. I love the A's.
But like, you know what?
Man.
When the Bears are losing, I root for the Vikings. So this year, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from the Bears, but I'm happy that the Vikings are 8-1 because they're the team I'm rooting for in the NFC. You got Perk Thuggins, the noon game nightmare, iced out Daddy Kirk with the chains.
It was Pat Pete this week, though.
No, I know. Well, no,
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins also had chains on too, but
Oh, he did. I just saw the video.
Peterson,
Pat-
he got the 2 interceptions. You had to give it to him.
Yeah, you had to, man. That was
The game sealing interception too in the end zone. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got to be the guy on camera with it.
yeah. No.
I'm liking what they got going in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. I like Kirk Cousins. I like
Yeah.
rooting for the Vikings. 8-1, standing right alongside them now at 8-1. Eagles suffered that first loss to Washington on Monday Night Football.
They were hosed.
No.
We did kind of call this on last week's episode.
We?
No, Andrew did.
I called this on
Yeah,
last week's
well,
episode.
I backed up you on it because I said when the Steelers lost 11-0, who'd they lose to?
Yeah, I know, Bobby.
I
but
did.
You
I
didn't
did.
agree with me. That doesn't mean you agreed with
I
me.
just said the math lines up. It could happen.
And
it did.
Listen, you know what? I saw it coming. By no means does this mean the Eagles aren't a good team.
No, they are.
You know,
a good
I
team,
would like
man.
to. I would like to preface. I compared them to the 2020 Steelers, who went 11-0 and collapsed at the end of the season. I think this Eagles team is better. Obviously, you have to be good to make it 8-0 in the NFL. It's not just a fluke, though. I guess the Steelers is closer to a fluke than what the Eagles are so far. But
If Eagles
the writing,
go 8-9, then yeah, it was a fluke.
yeah, that I guess is true. If
Yeah.
they lose out, then definitely a fluke.
No, they're playing the
but
Bears. They're going to win one more.
the writing was on the wall for the Eagles because they've struggled against teams that they shouldn't have struggled against.
Texans.
Yeah. Here's the thing:
Big
their marquee win is the Vikings, and the Vikings' only loss is the Eagles. So they're kind of a wash right there. Yeah. However, who's the team to beat in the NFC? Both of them sitting as the top 2 teams in the NFC, also the best records in the NFL. Which team are you more scared of facing if you're a team, if you have to go and face one of these teams at home in the playoffs, assuming they both are your 1 and 2 seeds, which team are you more nervous to face?
Philly.
Really?
We're saying in the playoffs?
Just in general. We'll just go in general right now. Which team are you more nervous to face?
Because like for me in the playoffs, if with how they're playing, they're probably going to be a home field advantage for most of the playoffs. I don't want to play in Philly. It's outside. Minnesota's inside. So I get
fair.
that.
You get
Philly
that.
fans are insane.
That's true.
Minnesota fans are into football, but it's like
No, Philly's a whole nother level.
Are just
That's a whole different level.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm looking at team wise, Minnesota has a more complete team. Jalen Hurts is better, but Eagles don't really have a. Delvin Cook's a stud running back, and so that's a running game. Their defense is better.
They have a better wide receiver.
I would like to see what happens with
taking Jefferson over.
Robert Quinn's development on that team. I think he's still learning the defense, so I feel like he's not really added pressure to it yet. So in the future, I'd like to see what happens. And also, this loss is tough because I think AJ Brown is more hurt than he thought. I think he probably would have sat out the whole second half if they were up, but since they were down, he played, and I think it showed that he wasn't really 100%.
That was kind of a bad drop that he had. That pick,
the pick
that should have been caught.
Yeah, but again, I think he's easing up a little bit. Like he's like, I don't want to go for that because I don't want to get hurt, and then also,
my thing is the team that I think is the team to beat right now, and this is no knock on the Eagles, but I'm taking the Vikings because one, they're riding higher than any other team in football right now.
Yeah, they just beat the Bills.
They just beat the Bills, who have not looked the same. But you know what? This was a legit win against the Bills.
That's like a
Josh Allen played. The knock was always that the Vikings, when they beat a good team, oh, well, you didn't face them with their starter, or this person was out. And there's always been something.
You didn't face a healthy Josh Allen.
Doesn't matter.
No, I just give you crap.
They did.
Josh Allen played bad. No, the Vikings, they're hot. They're the team I'm more concerned about facing right now. They just seem to have everything rolling for them, and they keep finding ways to win. There's really no wrong choice. They're both very good teams. I think the Vikings are going to be. I think they'll finish with a better record than the Eagles, though. Yeah. That's just how I kind of see it going. But I
want to see the Eagles after this loss because the Vikings have already proved they bounced back from the loss. They lost to the Eagles,
and that's the thing.
Won.
Also, the NFC East right now is pretty tough division. So
that's the toughest division in football.
Yeah, compared to
every team's 500 or better.
Well, and their division, their opponents they've played are 39-19 or something. They've played the toughest opponents too.
Yeah, and obviously, just looking at the NFC
Eagles.
No, the NFC.
I was going to say the Eagles have not outside of their.
No, the Eagles haven't, which is weird.
I was going to say outside of their division
it's
matchups.
A weak division, but like if you look at the Commanders,
no, I know the
Cowboys, and
they've all faced very
all
tough
played
teams.
Tough teams, which is weird to think that the Eagles haven't because everyone else has.
So I mean, we'll see. We'll have to see how the Eagles respond to this loss. In many ways, it's a good thing because your odds of going undefeated are slim. So if you're going to suffer one like that first loss, you don't want it to be right as you're hitting the postseason, and that could possibly like kill something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you suffered it at a good spot, right in the midpoint of the season. I don't know when their bye week is or if they've already had one.
They had their bye week.
Okay, so it's whatever though. You're still middle of the season, plenty of time to bounce back from it. I don't see this shaking up their team like crazy. If it does, then maybe it was a fluke. But I don't see it going that way.
Honestly, I got a lot of faith in Nick Sirianni just because how he took this team over and how much he has changed it. So I feel like he's gonna coach them up. They're gonna bounce.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah. And let's really look at the last 8 minutes. Quez Watkins, that was a terrible fumble.
Yeah,
amazing catch, and then he gets up without getting touched.
Yeah,
you got to make sure that you're like, unless you're for sure know that you're clear path to the end zone, you can kind of like release the ball a little bit. But that's a fumble in the red zone or almost.
Well, the thing that sucks about that fumble is. Yeah, it's a bad fumble. I'm not making an excuse for the guy, but the timing couldn't have been worse. It's as he's switching the ball to his dominant hand to tuck and run is when it happens. That's a tough fumble. The interception you highlighted was bad.
The fumble, the Dallas Goedert fumble was trash. How do you miss? I don't understand how you can miss face masking. I understand missing hands through the face because there's other things you're looking at. But some ref has to be looking at the ball the whole time because if he just drops the ball, you have to know that that's a fumble and he's not down. So how do you miss a guy just getting his face mask ripped down, which leads to the But again, I don't like blaming refs for games when unless it's for sure clear. I think it was a bogus roughing the passer call. That could be debated, whatever.
Mhm.
Dallas Goedert, that was a missed face masking. But if Quez Watkins doesn't fumble that ball, I don't think the Eagles lose, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, the Eagles hung in there.
I can't say it's the ref's fault because if he doesn't fumble and he gets a touchdown there, game over, Eagles win. So I can't blame the ref. So it's still.
And I also don't want to take away from Washington, who dominated the time of possession. They were like 16 of 20 on third downs. The Eagles couldn't get off the field with Washington. They took the air out of the Eagles offense.
Yeah.
And you know what? They were not flying with the way that game was going. So
Eagles fly.
fly. Yeah. It wasn't working out for them. Credit to Washington. And you know what? I'm going to say Taylor Heineke needs to finish the season as the quarterback.
Oh, yeah, he has to.
For Washington. There's no reason to go back to Wentz. You saw, they're just a different team.
Dude, they just rally around him. They play better.
It's because Heineke plays like a man who's got nothing to lose. I'm not a big fan of Joe Buck, but I really liked his analogy when he said Taylor Heineke's basically playing with house money. He's a dude who never should have made it to the NFL and did. Honestly, if it wasn't an injury and then a second injury to the starter and then the backup quarterback, he doesn't play in that playoff game against Tampa. And if that's it, we don't know any. Taylor Heineke's not even on the map. If he doesn't have 2 injuries, get him into a sudden last-minute playoff start against Tom Brady, where he held his own and Washington almost pulled out an upset against Tampa. And then, that was, from that moment on, Taylor Heineke's like, oh shit, I got nothing to lose at this point.
On top of that, they go and get Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then fluke injury. He's the starter for the rest of the season. It's just the football gods have spoken. Taylor Heineke needs to play quarterback. That's true.
Every other quarterback outside of him since I think since Kirk Cousins left has a losing record. What else do you need at this point?
That's true.
Just let them in. What do you have to lose? You're 5-5. You're 4th place in your division. What? You go on a run? Taylor Heineke's the guy who's going to spark your team to go on a run, regardless of whether he plays lights out or not. The juice is there when he's the quarterback.
You said about the scariest team I want to play between the Vikings and the Eagles. The scariest team I want to play is a team who's trying to fight for a playoff spot is the Commanders. Because you have Taylor Heineke, who we just mentioned, but you also have Brian Robinson Jr., who plays the same way that Taylor Heineke does.
That man dragged the whole Eagles D-line.
Except he's a starter. He doesn't have like a Taylor Heineke story where it's like I have to play balls to the wall consistently or else I'm not going to have a starting job. No, he's going to have a starting job.
And then you got Scary Terry.
And you got Antonio Gibson, who is playing amazing as a backup second guy running back, which, again, baffles me with you have now the Cowboys, the Commanders, the Bears, all these teams that have 2 running backs, and you look at the Bills who have Josh Allen as their starting running back.
Yeah, it's brutal.
How do you not find a second one?
It's tough. I'm rolling. If I'm the Commanders, though, I'm rolling with Heineke the rest of the year.
And he just got himself another pair of Jordans.
Yeah, he's getting another pair of Jordans.
Sick colors too.
Yeah, those ones will look clean. The Packers ones, maybe not. But no,
those 2 green pairs of Jordans this year already.
Yeah, those ones will look clean. Nick, you kind of alluded to some stuff when we were mentioning refs, so we'll kind of harp in on that and move into some Bears talk as well. But obviously, the refs have been controversial. We hinted at it at the top of the show, just mentioned it again with the missed face mask and some other things. Nick, you mentioned a phantom hands to the face penalty. So I want to pose the question real quick. What's worse? Is it worse when a ref misses a call or calls a penalty that just didn't happen? Which one pisses you off more? Let's say.
See, I feel like it all depends too. Like the missed pass interference call, Rams versus Saints, is one of the worst missed calls. Mm-hmm. But I also absolutely hate when not the Eddie Jackson call, that was bad, where it was there really wasn't pass interference. But I absolutely hate when it's 3rd down and they throw a pass interference call and there was no pass interference because there's no review, there's no nothing. I hate those calls. But again, it goes back and forth of what actually happened. Because if you're missing that face mask on Dallas Goedert,
it's big. That's a big miss.
Missing the Chase Claypool pass interference last week was ridiculous.
Yep.
But if it happens in the first quarter, I'm more mad about a phantom call because I'm like, well, it's stupid. It should have been 4th down. Now it's 1st and goal because you threw an 80-yard pass.
Yeah. See,
they tripped over each other.
For me, phantom calls piss me off more than a missed call because you know what?
In general,
in a missed call. In the speed of the game, it's going to happen. You know, if I put myself in the perspective of a ref, I know for a fact I'm not going to see everything. But when you call something that you claim you saw clear, to call it, you have to clearly see it and be confident that it's a penalty. And then you throw the flag and it doesn't, and it just, there was no penalty even there. Like, I want to talk about the, what's his face? Jalen Johnson, illegal hands to the face, wiped away Jack Sanborn's interception against the Lions. Terrible call.
It was.
Like, it's a flop. The hands hit him in the chest, the receiver falls, and we throw hands to the face. Like, that stuff is what upsets me more when they call something that didn't happen. Because that means you were looking and saw it and just didn't see it correctly. Yeah. Whereas if you miss something, there's the speed of the game, a lot of other variables that play into missing something. Like, you have to watch a lot of the field. It's going to happen where you'll miss a call, but I just don't like when they call something and there was nothing there. That's what upsets me more.
No, I agree.
Then that's where it's like it comes down to like situation, because like in that Saints-Rams game, how do you miss that clear of a pass interference?
Yeah, that was bad. That's probably the worst.
But I also like with the Jack Sanborn, I missed that. I saw it on the highlights, but I missed it because I was traveling back from hanging out with family. But in that situation, don't call the flag. Then after the interception goes, then group up with and they're like, I saw Jalen Johnson hit him in the chest, and then also looks like you could put hands in the face. If you ask another ref and they say, no, I didn't see that, then you ask two of them, no, it's clean. Now, if the other ref is like, yeah, I also kind of saw something, let the play go for a second and then try to call it. I hate when they throw an early flag, and then it's like, well, now
and then they don't even, like, come together.
Yeah, it's like, once you throw the flag, for me, NFL refs, as soon as they throw a flag,
it's like, it stands.
It's like they have to be right. Whereas like NBA, I've seen multiple times where it's like, boom, ball goes out of bounds, instantly point this way. And then for a second, they think about it, and they're like, well, wait, hold on. And they go ask someone, it's like, all right, no, ball the other way. It's like they don't have the pride factor.
Yeah,
like,
I can get behind that.
It has to be that.
And also, I feel like you got to go to the ref that should have the best view of it. Yeah. If they are not what I hate to see the most is when a play happens downfield and there's a ref right there. They don't reach for their flag or anything. And then the ref all the way downfield, like the back judge or something, flags them for a penalty on what that ref right there is seeing. I'm sorry. If I'm throwing the flag from all the way downfield, I'm going up to that guy. I'm going, did you see it? Yeah. This is what I saw. Did you see it the same way? And if the dude who's closer to the play and has a better view of it goes, no, dude, it's clean, you have to pick up that flag. I don't feel like that happens a lot. I agree with Nick. I think refs, they throw it, and it's like, no, that's a penalty. We're calling it. And they don't deliberate and think, are we sure that's a penalty? Is this what we're going to call?
And yeah, I think it's the whole point of like, as soon as they throw a flag, like someone sees it and they put it up on the prompter. So it's on TV. So
it's there right away. You know, the refs see it. I'm so, like, you know,
when they go, there's no flag on the play. I don't mind that. I'm like, well, why'd you throw the flag? But also I'm like, okay, you saw something.
You saw the flag. You saw it.
Good refs. And that happens. So that means that there's refs out there and there's ref crews out there that does happen. That. But it's just, there's got to be ref crews out there that as soon as they, and I've seen NBA refs do the same thing where they'll call a foul and they're like, nope. And then you watch the replay and every other ref is like, no, he missed the call. But that ref is just dead set on, I can't be wrong.
I think it all goes back to is they're not held to a same standard because they're not full-time. Like this needs to be a full-time position where it is, this is how it goes. This is what you do. They need to have film studies. They need to have reviews. Like they need to.
The NFL makes too much money to not let these.
Well, my biggest problem is college football. I've watched a lot of college football. There's nowhere near as much controversy with these big calls, and also there's a lot less problems where it's like, yes, the targeting is always crazy, but in college it's like these guys aren't getting paid money, so we're going to protect them more. So if that's the point where you're like, no, that should have been targeting, you're ruining that kid's game. But you're also like, no, I'd rather keep it safe and have him play more games than have him get hurt. He's not getting paid millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But that's the only call that they mess up in college football. And that's an okay call, in my opinion, to miss.
Yeah.
They don't miss
targeting is a little
hands
iffy,
to the face. They don't miss like random pass interference calls or call fan.
Yeah.
They're pretty good ref games. So how are you not?
The inconsistencies of NFL refs continue to amaze me.
Yeah.
But with that, the Bears, like we mentioned, tough loss to the Lions, choked away a game. I will say, refs, I don't like blaming the refs, but you know, when there are big swings in like the nature of the game due to penalty calls, that conversation will naturally start. For one, the hands to the face wipes away Jack Sanborn's interception, which many people, I'm not going to say this with as much certainty as other people do, but could have effectively ended that game. That could have been the nail in the coffin. Bears could have gone down, scored, gone up 3 scores, game over at that point. Less than 10 minutes to go. Unlikely. But with the other one on that same drive before that, they call a unnecessary roughness that they tackled Jared Goff out of bounds when Jared Goff tripped over his own feet and fell. It just so happens to happen right after Kyler Gordon's trying to hit the ball out before he gets out of bounds. And so when you look at it, that one upset me a lot because like Kyler Gordon hits him and he's not even out of bounds yet. And then Jared Goff
guy hits him out of bounds, but still not enough to where
he didn't. But Brisker never even touched him. Jared Goff tripped and fell, and Brisker jumped over him, and it like the way it played out looked like Brisker lowered himself into Goff, but Goff just tripped himself. He literally clicked his feet together and fell. Yeah. And then what pissed me off the most about that though is how Jared Goff got up and got in the face of those guys as if he doesn't know he just tripped himself and fell.
I mean, I gotta give him credit.
No. I give you credit when you get. Yeah, I give you credit when you get in their face after they hit you.
No,
when
Taylor
you trip
Heineke
yourself.
did the same thing because he was on the.
It's That's a whole different nature of the play. He took a late hit.
I understand that, but he went on. I think it was the Travis Kelce. No, it wasn't
Pat
Travis
McAfee
Kelce.
show.
It was the Pat McAfee show where he gets talking. He goes, he barely touched me, but as soon as he made contact with me, I looked at the ref and said, "What the hell?" And he threw the flag.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Because you're gonna. To me, again, with the refs, you have to look at the intent. Yep. Even if Brisker made contact or Kyler Gordon makes contact with him after he runs out of bounds, they didn't hit him hard. The hardest hit on a quarterback that was late was Justin Fields getting ripped down by 3 guys.
Yeah.
Well, after the whistle. Yeah, that one bugged me.
Same thing with Taylor Heineke. Yeah. Yes, he may have gotten hit late, but there was no intent to like just absolutely pile drive him.
Oh, I know he had no intent to injure Heineke.
Don't throw a flag for that, in my opinion.
I don't think those are equally comparable situations.
No.
But no, you know what? We'll go there real quick. The difference is Taylor Heineke goes down, takes the knee, gives himself up. Campbell gets 3 steps and then lunges at him. And yes, you could tell he lunged at him and was like, I'm not trying to hit him hard. But you took a lot of steps and lunged at him well after the whistle had blown. So that one's a little different. Whereas
to me, it's it was a very weird kneel down. That was very awkward how that happened.
I've seen it though.
And 2,
I don't agree.
I hate it because of, and I'm not saying it's like this is the same situation, but the Kenny Pickett fake slide. If you fake go down to your knees, but your knees don't touch the ground, and then Taylor Heineke spins out of that and then throws a 40-yard pass, everyone's like, why didn't you hit him?
Well, because that's the thing. The whistle blew already.
Yeah, but it's still hard to stop.
The whistle,
that's the whole thing.
Yes, it's hard to stop, except he took 3 steps and then dove at him. That's the difference.
Touched, I wouldn't throw a flag. If he full tackled him, yes, throw a flag.
I don't think they're equally comparable situations.
But no, the Goff one was way worse. It should not have been called.
Yeah, but the difference between them the most is the whistle blew for Heineke.
The whistle did not blow for Goff.
Yeah, the whistle didn't blow for Goff, and he tripped, and then you throw the flag, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. Heineke took the knee, whistle blows, 3 steps in a lunge into him later. The nature of the rule is at that point, like 3 steps is plenty of time to hold up from the whistle. That's just how yes, Campbell didn't intend to hit him hard. It was definitely one of those things where he just had a delayed reaction. In his post-game interview, he straight up said, he's like, yeah, I hit him late. Like, he didn't hide from the fact that he hit him late. He said he didn't try to hit him hard, but he admitted it was a late hit. So it's like, when the player's admitting that he was at fault for it, I'm not going to get upset with the refs on that one. The Goff one is just stupid because he tripped himself. And it's less about the penalty. It's about how he got in the defenders' faces as if he just took a tough hit from them. Yeah. It was like, that's right. You can't phase me. He's like, bro, you're just that unathletic that you tripped yourself running out of bounds. Like, I'm sorry. I like Goff. I lost a lot of respect for him on that one. Yeah. That when you know that you got away with some bullshit, you have to just kind of you just smirk and just go. You don't try and sell it even more. You don't go and get in someone's face. Like Heineke probably shouldn't have been like, let's go, first down, like he did. That's one of those when you go, sorry guys, that's the rule. Yeah. And you go into the huddle, getting in their faces when you know you got away with some shit. It's kind of like, that's not it, dude. That's how you get guys to headhunt you.
That's true. Well, the whole Bears game, it was just ticky-tacky called. I didn't like the refs at all that game. But do want to highlight Jack Sanborn.
Had a great
hell
game.
of a game, dude.
Jack Sanborn.
Roquan, who we don't need him.
Yeah, no, seriously.
yeah, we
Jack
do,
Sanborn,
but-
2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, game high 12 tackles, and what should have been an interception.
Yes.
I'm still going to give him credit for making the play on the ball.
Yeah, that was a great.
Like it
great
was a
read.
great read. He baited Goff, which is hilarious because it was like 3 plays after that whole trip out of bounds happened. So when it happened, I'm like, please let this stand. I'm like, this would be great if Jared Goff had trips, gets some shit, and then fumbles it. But no, the refs had to help him again. But what I will take away,
And our
it's
dude,
another week of the offense putting up points.
the offense.
Yep.
Justin Fields, man, he's our offense.
Yes.
That's-
Whoa.
Cole
I
Kmet.
don't like that.
No, the
Cole
offense.
Kmet has helped Justin Fields so much.
Well, I'm just saying.
Quite honestly,
You
it like
over 150
no, but
yards
for
and have
if
2
we're gonna be
touchdowns.
entirely honest, this offense, it's the Justin Fields Cole Kmet show for the last 4 weeks.
It really has been.
Outside of those two guys,
Well,
Mooney's
yeah.
playing a role, but until Chase Claypool, Chase
Claiborne.
Whoa!
What are you
Until
saying?
Chase Claiborne gets more involved.
You know, you'll get it.
Why am I saying Claiborne?
Sanborn. Claiborne? I
Gosh,
guess.
Claypool.
Clayborne?
Yeah, that okay.
That was
Okay,
bad, then he
pause.
goes to
Rewind.
Claiborne.
Until Chase Claypool gets more involved with the offense,
They're
Mooney's
gonna
not going to open up that much.
Yeah.
So they're using a lot of Cole Kmet, which is hilarious because Bears fans have been saying for years that
And
to get the tight end involved, and
6'6". He's 6'6".
and then they draft Cole Kmet, and I'm like, this is it. They finally got a tight end they can use.
And
Never used him.
5 touchdowns in 3 games.
Yeah,
Exactly.
He's second most receiving touchdowns among tight ends. You know who's first? Travis Kelce.
oh, I was gonna say Gerard Everett, but yeah, that makes sense.
Who?
Gerald Everett.
Yeah, Gerald Everett.
Oh,
kind of like you said Gerard.
You said
Everett.
Gerard.
I did say
and that's what.
Gerard.
And that was like,
Gerard.
I was like,
It's a
Gerard
G.
Butler?
It's
Gerald
yeah,
Everett,
no.
you know?
So he like him emerging as a receiving option and just a threat in the red zone is huge.
Dude, it's Claypool
In the
being
comfort-
there. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Claypool being there.
In the comfort,
Claiborne. What do you
the
mean?
comfortability between Fields and Kmet in the red zone is massive. Like that's going to be a big factor going
Yeah.
forward. As Claypool gets more involved, that'll open up him and Mooney. And now you have 3 solid receiving options. I still am crying for N'Keal Harry to get more
Dude,
involvement.
Get Pringle out there.
I don't want to watch Byron Pringle play. I'm sorry. I don't care. Let him
Newsome, please.
let him play on special teams. Find a way to get N'Keal Harry involved.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
the size of this Bears receiving group.
That's
you have
where
your
you gotta
speed
go.
in Mooney. You have size in Claypool and Kmet. And N'Keal Harry, I think, is like 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, and then-
he's tall.
Yeah.
So it's like you have size, you have speed, you have strength. Dude, what come on.
You have Justin Fields, but changes your defense because, see, that's what the whole thing too is. Kmet is smart. He went to Notre Dame, which I remember looked at. It was like, oh, he went to a good school. He must be smart. No, I think most football players are smart, football IQ wise.
Mm-hmm.
But when Fields scrambles out of the pocket, Kmet is smart enough to. My route was a corner route, but I'm just going to find the opening because clearly the play's dead. He's been sprinting around there for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
He gets open. Darnell Mooney's fast enough to get open.
There's just
So
talent.
put
I
another
said,
tall guy out there, N'Keal Harry. I don't need Byron Pringle. I don't need another.
I don't need
speed
another.
snap.
I don't need another 5'10" slot guy
I just
to take snaps away from a 6'3"
I-
semi-speedy N'Keal Harry. I get it. But are we really saying Byron Pringle's better than N'Keal Harry? Like, come on. Now
They're definitely
we're
the same
picking it.
tier.
We're pulling hairs
They
here.
are,
at
they
that
are,
point.
they are same tier, one's taller.
Yes, and I want the size.
like honestly, I'm excited to watch Bears game because of the offense. And
yes, I
you
can watch them lose when they're scoring a lot.
That's-
because I know that the defense is not built to be good this year.
The
we
only
we
problem
saw
is
that
when-
come in the second they traded. Once Khalil Mack got traded, I knew that was it for this defense. That was boom. We're giving up our big piece, and then they traded, obviously the Roquan and Robert
Yeah.
Quinn. But this is going all the way back to Khalil Mack. I was like, all right, so we're gonna implode the defense
Yeah.
because that's what we're gonna do. I knew the defense was going to struggle.
But-
I just wasn't confident that the offense was going to be able to do anything to compensate. And now that they are, I'm okay with the defense being bad
Yeah.
because I trust that the $115+ million in cap space will be spent to fix those
But
issues.
guess what, boys? We got a big acquisition. Well, Andrew already knows. Taco Charlton.
Oh yeah,
He's a bear.
Taco Charlton,
Yeah. Yep.
Cowboys bust.
The
Steelers
only-
great defensive end.
The only problem I have with the Bears defense is, again, they're the first team to score 29+ points 3 straight games and lose. all
That's
three
that's
games.
brutal. Like that's
Which,
just
okay,
hilarious.
that's going to happen because you're going to get into shootouts where, like, the Chargers-Browns game last year. I mean, that wasn't the offense's fault. They scored a ton of points. But when you're up 24-10 in the fourth quarter, you should be winning those games. especially against the Lions offense.
Yeah, and you know what? To
If
be
you're
fair to the
playing the
defense,
Chiefs offense, or when the Bears play the Eagles, if they're up 24-10 and they lose, that's a high-powered offense. The Lions, you're telling me the Lions are a high-powered offense that's going to score 14 points on you?
I'll tell you what though.
When
I'm in
you
raw.
lose T.J. Hawkinson
I'm in raw.
He a dude, man.
He a dude.
He a
and
dude.
Jamal Williams?
Yeah.
Jamal.
I think he has like.
Jamal Williams has like 10 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah,
this year.
yeah,
He's got a lot.
most.
No,
Ja-
like
is Jadrick
the Lions
still
are good,
healthy or no, is he
but
still
but
out?
No, he's
you
healthy.
shouldn't
I think he's
lose.
just-
You shouldn't lose up 24-10. And you know what? To be fair to the defense, that pick six was tough. That was a tough pick six. That tied the game.
It was not a good throw by Fields.
Yeah, it was a bad. It was a bad, but that was realist. That was really Fields' first bad play in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Like he's been playing really smart. He vowed that he will never make that mistake again. Now I'm not going to hold him to that. Like that's the right thing to say.
No, you're done. You're done.
That's the right. That's the right thing to say.
But, dude,
but like, let's be realistic. Even Aaron Rodgers makes mistakes. Tom Brady makes mistakes.
like-
So let's not sit here and be like,
Mitch
he's never
Trubisky
going to
does
make
it.
a mistake. He's made plenty, just never a pick six.
Yeah, and if Mitch Trubisky was in the game, it would not have
He
been
would
a
have
big
made that.
thing.
He would have tackled him.
would.
He would have tackled him. That's the difference. No,
just-
but
he
you know
just
what?
knows how to
There's a
tackle.
lot
That's
to
about
there's a
it.
lot to be
Now, the
excited
game
about
would
with
have
the
been
Bears.
14-3 or 10-3 at
No,
the time because the Bears wouldn't have scored
Mitch
any points.
undefeated against the Lions. Just saying.
You're right, you're right.
That's true. Mitch doesn't lose against the Lions.
Yeah,
Actually, it's
but
more
I mean,
so. It's
this-
Matt Patricia. No, because they did lose to the Lions last year on that brutal fumble. He's undefeated against the Matt Patricia Lions.
No, what?
Maybe it was a couple years ago. It was a couple years. It had to be a couple years ago.
It had to be because I'm pretty sure he
Yeah, 'cause
lost
last
to
year
the
he
Matt
was-
Patricia
last year they
line.
did-
Yeah, that was the first team. That was,
Last year, Trubisky
yeah,
was not
Trubisky was on the team. That's right. I misspoke. It was the Nick Foles year. It was when they.
Oh yeah. Because they lost like
It was the fumble happened, and then it
Yeah.
was when Allen Robinson just ran out of bounds
yeah. Because I
on fourth down
remember-
instead of going it was like third down, and he had if he just took 2 more steps forward, it was first down,
Yep,
and he
yep.
stepped out of bounds
Yep.
for fourth down. And I was like, what is this? Well, let's not talk about those years.
Yeah.
Basically, there's reason for optimism in Chicago, so I am excited.
Yep.
And yeah, with
Field the guy, man.
I think
I'm
Fields is a
convinced.
guy.
I think
he's the guy.
That's all I need.
As the O-line starts playing better and guys get more separation, I think we're going to see his passing ability come out more.
Yeah. And when you beat Michael Vick's single
Yeah.
game rushing yards by QB,
And the thing I like about Fields,
insane.
yeah, that's impressive. But the thing I like about Fields, I hate the narrative that he's a running back, like that. Oh, he's a run-first quarterback. Every time you watch him tuck it and run, it's like he's looking downfield to throw it until he absolutely cannot anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, there's times where he's like, you know what? I need 8 yards. It's there in front of me right now. I need those 8 yards now. I'm taking it.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that happens sometimes, but that's what his athleticism does for you. But he's not looking to run every time it opens up. There's so many times where he can scramble for 12, 15 yards,
And,
and he's looking until he absolutely cannot wait any longer to throw the ball.
but also you got to look at like Lamar Jackson didn't have the best receivers around him, so like obviously as he was developing as a quarterback, yeah, he ran more, and then now look at him now. He has like a little
Yeah,
bit
the
better
trajectory
receiving
is there.
core.
I'm very confident with Justin Fields right
Yeah.
now, especially because it's efficiency as well. So he's not throwing for a ton of yards, but he's also not throwing the ball a lot. But when he is, he's throwing touchdowns and he's moving the ball. So
He's not missing open receivers.
yeah, he's being
Yeah.
efficient. And you know what? Efficiency shows me that he can throw. So if he can maintain that and his volume goes up, the passing numbers will get better.
Yeah.
That's just like the nature of the game. But when you're attempting 20 passes a game, come on, let's not expect 300 plus yards with 20 pass attempts. That's absurd.
And
My thing is, if you can average roughly 10 yards per pass, you're effective, you're efficient. That's like the benchmark for passing expectations. Inside 10 yards, okay, we kind of got to stretch it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you get my point.
But realistically, going over the last 2 weeks, couple plays changes, Bears have 2 wins. Like,
Yeah.
so you
It's-
got to be happy with
And
that.
you know what? They're going to have a higher draft pick with every loss, so I'm cool with it. I'm excited for what is to come for the Bears.
True.
With that, though, Nick, hit us with your question of the week.
This is a test run of what I want to do going forward. Probably like a couple. I'm going to sprinkle them out like every month to do.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to do trade at time of trade versus current and see who won.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with one that we all know very well. Jimmy Butler trade for the Bulls Timberwolves. At the time of the trade, who won the trade? So at the time, it was Jimmy Butler to Minnesota, and Minnesota sent to the Bulls a pick that turned out to be Lauri Markkanen, Chris Dunn, and Zach LaVine. And then the Timberwolves got the Bulls pick from that year.
Yes, at the time, Timberwolves won that trade.
Yeah, I think you have to go Timberwolves.
I can already answer it. The Timberwolves have since lost that trade.
So
that is very.
I did a lot more research, but like I couldn't really find. It was harder to find that. So what ended up having the Bulls is they have Zach LaVine now, who's an all-star, probably going to be a 2-time all-star. Chris Dunn left the team and signed with the Atlanta Hawks instead. Lauri Markkanen was traded to Cleveland for what ended up being a draft pick that the Bulls got, and Derrick Jones Jr., and then it was cap space, like just money. So that's what also happened. What the Timberwolves got from Jimmy Butler being traded to the 76ers was Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, and a 2022 second-round pick, which I think they ended up trading. And I didn't want to go through and find all 4 of those guys' trades because I know Covington got traded to Portland.
It's been a laundry list of things happening.
So to me, that's a very fair one to just, kind of best. Like, obviously, in my opinion, it was weird when the Bulls got that pick because I loved Jimmy Butler, but I liked how much depth it added because the Bulls needed a guard. Zach LaVine was your replacement for Jimmy Butler, and then Lauri Markkanen was your.
I was hyped for Lauri Markkanen, I will say. I liked him coming out of college.
At the time, I was like, this is a slight win for the Bulls, but I was mad for Jimmy Butler. And I know you guys say that was a win for the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought it was a win for the Timberwolves just because I still hold Jimmy Butler very high on the list of like stars in the NBA. So I thought they got a culture changing like superstar. And so I was like, it's a win. Jimmy Butler alone, I thought was a win for them just because he was still young. I thought the Bulls were still in position to where they could have built around Jimmy Butler and just chose not to. So I was like, okay, it's a win for the Timberwolves. Since then, since he's not there, and it amounted to nothing with his time there.
Unless any of those people they've traded turned into them picking Cat.
No, Cat was already on the team before.
Okay.
The whole reason Jimmy Butler got traded to the 76ers is because he was
pissed at Cat.
He won with the third stringers against Karl Anthony Towns. And
he's like, you effing need me.
On the middle of the court said,
yelling up at the GM, you effing need me.
Yeah.
And then he got traded.
And then everyone hated Jimmy Butler for that. And I was like, well, no. He was
like, that was my thing. I was like, dude, how do we hate Jimmy Butler for this? Like, that was always Jimmy Butler's thing. He wanted you to play hard. And that's why he works in Miami, because he's got a group of players who play hard and they compete. Yeah. He got there and was like, no one on this team in Minnesota is trying to win games. They're just coasting.
Was the same way. Like, I don't get why. Like,
okay. I thought you were saying that as like a counterpoint to what I'm saying. I was like,
no, I'm saying that
like, what is that?
Like how can people be like, oh yeah, that's
it's because Cat's the superstar. Yeah. He was the star of the team.
They're like, oh, you got traded to a new team. You're supposed to adapt the team culture and chemistry. He's like, but they sucked. Like they were not. They were not getting to their potential.
Sucked. That's why. I'm sorry, Karl Anthony Towns he's so talented. A 7-foot center who can shoot threes. Like, how much more of a threat do you need on the offensive side of the ball? Plus, he's 7 feet tall. You're just naturally a solid defender at that size. Yeah. So it's like
the only thing that
the fact that they couldn't do it is just embarrassing.
The Timberwolves, because it was the Timber Bulls, because they had Tom Thibodeau as their coach.
Yeah, that's right.
And he didn't like Karl Anthony Towns, so that's why they ended up getting rid of him as coach. But then they also had Taj Gibson. And they got 2 other guys that used to play on the Bulls. So, like, Jimmy Butler was trying to build, like, the chemistry back up how it was in the Bulls. And they're like, actually, we're going to ship you to the 76ers. I think him going from 76ers to the Miami Heat was a money situation. Also, he was like, I kind of want to be the star.
Well, if I remember, he did not like Joel Embiid, right? Or was it Ben Simmons?
He didn't like Ben Simmons.
Okay.
Joel Embiid and him got along.
Like Ben Simmons?
No one likes
Joel
Ben Simmons.
Embiid and him got along. And at the time, 76ers were for sure rolling with Ben Simmons. So he was like, I'm going. Like, I'm not staying around for this.
No, the Timberwolves committed to Cat and was like, this is our guy. Anyone who ruffles those feathers is gone. That's pretty much what happened
and
there.
Then Jimmy Butler was like...
And then Jimmy Butler was like, okay, fine. I'll take these mad guys over here in the bubble. We'll go against the Lakers in the NBA championship 3 years later.
Yeah.
It's just, I will say Timberwolves on paper won at the time, but looking back on it, absolute L.
Yeah. Bulls win.
I'm still not happy that Jimmy Butler left the Bulls.
Yeah.
Like, there's no consolation for that. Imagine Jimmy Butler on this team now. Oh.
Be insane.
Jimmy Butler, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine. Oh, I would love it. It would be weird, but I would love it. All right, so do you like that format as a question?
Yeah, I like that.
For each sport? And then how many do you think would be good? Just one or multiple?
For every week?
Yeah,
Just
no, not
one.
every week.
Oh.
But I'm saying like if I do it once a month, would you want 2 different trades? Because I feel like that's pretty quick if we didn't keep talking about it.
No, I like it's quick. It's not too crazy.
I would say just like do a different sport like every month.
That's
Cool.
Pull 1 or 2 a month and we're good. I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So, but that'll wrap up the. So we're all in agreement. Bulls lost at the time, ended up winning.
Well,
Or Nick was Bulls.
I'm having it. I say fair trade.
Fair trade. Okay, you're a
at the
fair
time,
trade
But now
guy.
for
Gotcha.
sure Bulls win because they still have Zach.
Gotcha.
LaVine and they got Derrick Jones Jr.
Fair enough. But that'll wrap up the episode, guys. So as always, thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, please give us a follow on our social medias, like and share with some of your friends or other people who you like to talk sports with. As always, guys, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
Yep, Raven Flock, let's fly.
Smoke that Saints pack.